From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
Dennis's Heating and Air Conditioning is Northern California's premier heating and air conditioning contractor. From residential housing, large commercial projects, installation to repair, sheet metal fabrication, and everything in between, we are your go-to heating and air conditioning specialist.
Hey, did you know there's a free Weather NorCal app out there? All you have to do is go to your app store on your iPhone, your Android, search for Weather NorCal, look for this icon, click the install button, and you are good to go. One of the things I always really like to mention is the fact that everything I offer here at Weather NorCal can be accessed right from your phone. So be sure to check that out. All right, so we saw a nice start to the work week. Temperatures were around normal for this time of the year. We got to see a little bit of rain, in fact, a lot of rain for the coast. But that's over. We've got high pressure building in. The bigger heat arrives tomorrow. The heat wave should peak sometime around Wednesday, Thursday, even into Friday before temperatures do start to drop. But even though temperatures are dropping going into the weekend, it's still going to be hot. Temperatures in the valley are still going to be well in the 90s by your Saturday and Sunday. Here's your neighborhood forecast at a quick glance. I think we'll be upper 90s, about 100 degrees. It's going to be another one of those situations where some in the valley may not quite touch 100, but that, of course, will no longer be the case by the time we get to Wednesday, because that's, again, when the heat really kicks in. Temperatures in the 80s for the higher elevations, and once again in the low 60s for the coast. Now the winds, again, we're talking about that fire danger. We've got to take a look at a few aspects, a few things, and of course the winds aren't really a big factor tomorrow morning, but by tomorrow afternoon, they're picking back up again. And of course, just in time for the heat, right? So that's going to increase that fire danger for the valley. Let's take you into your Wednesday, and your Wednesday morning, still a bit on the breezy side to start off the day, and then we can see that those winds should subside a bit here for Wednesday afternoon. So that's going to cause the fire danger to be fairly high midday on Wednesday, but then the fire danger should start to drop a little bit here as we get closer to the evening hours. By the way, those north winds still a bit on the gusty side here for the coast on Wednesday. How about that humidity? Well, if we're down to about 20-25%, that's low, and that's about where we're going to be here for tomorrow, and it looks like it'll be even lower by the time we get into Wednesday. As you can see, down into the single digits and into the lower teens. It increases a little bit here for the north end of the valley, but overall, low humidity, heat, winds, that's going to increase that fire danger. So for your Tuesday, high fire danger in the valley, unfortunately. We take you into your Wednesday. As mentioned, the winds will be strongest as we go into midday on Wednesday, but look at Wednesday at about 4 or 5 p.m. It's still high in many cases, but you can see it's not as widespread. It's diminishing a bit. And then, of course, as we start going to the overnight hours, it does go back down to low. All right, so as we start to see that heat begin to move in, you're going to hear different terminology: heat advisory, excessive heat watch, excessive heat warning. So what we're under right now is an excessive heat warning. We were before that in an excessive heat watch. So that's usually issued within 24 to 72 hours when the risk of the heat wave increases, but the timing is usually still uncertain. The excessive heat warning is issued within 12 hours, and typically when the high is 105 degrees or higher for at least 2 days, and we expect to see that. Now, these watches and warnings are usually also issued if those nighttime temperatures aren't expected to drop below 75 degrees. Now, I do think we're going to see that temperatures will drop below 75, but those daytime highs between 95 and 108, we're still not going to get a ton of relief in those overnight hours, and that's going to make it even more difficult to cool off. So again, we have the excessive heat warning for tomorrow morning through Thursday evening. So at least for 3 days, but by the time we do get into Friday, those temperatures should start to slowly drop. So Tuesday, tomorrow, when the heat wave begins, I think we're going to be kind of hovering around 100 degrees, give or take, for the valley. You can see the areas in orange. What that means is when we look at the National Weather Service heat risk, that's moderate. It affects most people sensitive to heat, especially if they don't have proper cooling or hydration. All right, then we go into Wednesday. Now we're getting into that red. We're in a major heat risk. That means it affects anyone who doesn't have proper way to stay cool and doesn't have proper hydration. That'll be the case going into your Thursday as well. Still looking at that major heat risk for Thursday. Then by Friday, you can see it goes back down to a moderate risk. So what do we take from this? Well, of course, as I mentioned, the peak of the heat wave will be Wednesday, Thursday. That's when we're in that major heat risk. And then we start to see temperatures begin to slowly drop after that. Bottom line, if you've got a place to cool off, if you've got plenty of water to drink for hydration, you're going to be fine, as long as you don't overdo it while you're outside. It's those that don't have proper way to stay cool or hydrate, right? And those are the people you need to look out for and watch, especially the elderly and infants. Of course, don't forget about your pets too. You got to make sure that they're going to be okay too. All right, so here's the situation. This is the warmer air that's in place today. All right, it was a mild day. All right, then we're going to start to see this heat begin to build in. So starting tomorrow, the hot temperatures begin to move closer. Now, this is actually not going to move right over us. The center of the dome of high pressure will actually be over the desert southwest. That's where the hottest temperatures will be. We're on the outer fringes of that. So even though it won't be as hot, it's still going to be quite hot. All right, that's when it peaks on Wednesday, Thursday. Now, you'll notice this right here is going to start to kind of ride over that ridge of high pressure. What that will do is try to break down the ridge of high pressure a little bit, but not by much. As I mentioned, it's still going to be hot over the weekend, just not as hot as what we'll see here for your Wednesday, Thursday, and even for your Friday. Now, going into next week, we've got another ridge of high pressure coming in from the west. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this ridge of high pressure. I've actually had a few people asking about it. This ridge at this point does not look to expand much farther to the north, because this right here may kind of prevent that from happening as this kind of moves itself off to the east. However, that all being said, it will still be hot, but at this point, I'd say that this heat wave coming in for next week probably won't be as hot as the one moving through this week, but it will still be hot nonetheless. So what we're seeing here, see the trend here? You see how it peaks Wednesday, Thursday, as I mentioned, and then temperatures start to slowly drop. By Sunday, we see a peak in the drop in the temperatures, and then by Monday, we'll start to see the temperatures start to kind of creep back up again. Going into Tuesday, Wednesday of that next week, it may be closer to the upper 90s, maybe even close to 100 degrees. So you get the idea, up, then back down again, still above normal. And this is what I was talking about. Even though it's cooling off, we're still almost 10 degrees above normal on Sunday. As you get the idea, here's the coolest day of the next 7 days, right? Now we look at the trend here for Weaverville and the mountains in general, same situation. It kind of peaks on Wednesday, Thursday, and then it starts to kind of drop after that. Now, I think Weaverville, Hayfork, you could see 100 degrees, Douglas City, for example. But as you head into places like Alturas, Mount Shasta City, Susanville, probably mid to upper 80s, low to mid 80s, and low to mid 90s, let's put it that way, for many of the higher elevations. Now, the temperature trend for the coast, just kind of show you this is where you want to go to cool off, because the hottest you're going to get is probably somewhere in the mid, maybe some upper 60s for some of those daytime highs. So know the signs between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. If you start seeing the signs of heat exhaustion, this is what you need to make sure that you get into a nice cool place. You kind of hydrate yourself. If you notice somebody who's got some of those heat stroke symptoms, such as throbbing headache, confusion, no sweating, body temperature above 103 degrees, nausea or vomiting, rapid strong pulse, and maybe even losing consciousness, you need to dial 911 and get them medical attention immediately. All right, so the wave heights, not going to create any problems. In fact, they're going to start to decrease for your Tuesday. So no advisories at this point. But by Wednesday, we're probably going to start to see those wave heights increase, and significantly. So we may see some small corrective advisories by the middle of the week. Northwest winds at 5 knots, waves from the northwest at 7 feet at 11 seconds, and from the south at 1 foot at 14 seconds. As mentioned, no advisories in the forecast. All right, here's what it looks like for tonight. It's still going to be a cool night tonight. All right, so you can see even for the mountains, we're dropping down to the mid to upper 40s for those overnight lows tonight. And even in the valley, not that bad, in the low to mid 60s. Actually cooler tonight than it was last night or this morning. That's because we're not going to see the cloud cover that we saw last night. And that cloud cover really helped to keep us a little bit warmer. Temperatures tonight should be in the mid to upper 40s out along the coast. All right, here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. I think we'll see upper 80s to right around 90 for some of the warmer spots for your Tuesday. But then you can see those temperatures starting to increase up to 100 degrees by Thursday. That's the peak. Temperatures should start to drop after that, but still at least in the low to mid 90s over the weekend and into early next week. Here's your North Coast neighborhood forecast. Temperatures are just going to hover right around the mid-60s, give or take, for the next 7 days. Dry conditions. We take you up north. Inland, we're going to be looking at some pretty hot temperatures there. Upper 90s for Thursday, Friday, dropping down in the low to mid 90s for the weekend into early next week. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast mainly in the 80s, but up in those higher elevations to the north and east in the mid 70s. So not too terribly hot here for places like Siskiyou County, but we are in the low 90s for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even Saturday, mid to upper 80s by Sunday into Monday. Your Modoc County neighborhood forecast, 82 for Fort Bidwell, 83 for El Turris and Calpine's, about 82. Temperatures low 90s for most of Modoc County for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, mid to upper 80s here for Sunday into Monday. How about the Eastern Mountains? We're about 90 in Greenville, 90 in Shingletown, 10 degrees cooler in Viola at about 80 degrees. This is that upper and lower Shingletown difference that we're talking about. As you start going lower Shingletown, you're probably going to be more like the 92, 93 range. 93 for Paradise, 84 degrees for Westwood, and Quincy about 92 degrees. And your Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by NorCal Tractor. We're splitting hairs. You get the idea, though. I think we're going to be right around 100 degrees, give or take. So the thing is, tomorrow, some of you may see 100 degrees for the first time this year, others not quite just yet. But I do think by Wednesday, it'll be widespread all across the valley. Everyone will be 100 degrees or higher before we see temperatures drop down into the mid to upper 90s for Saturday, Sunday, and then another slight increase going into your Monday. There's your 7-day outlook for Redding. Yeah, I mean, we're close to, if not right around 100 degrees for tomorrow. Temperature of 106, that's the peak for Wednesday, Thursday. The temperature should start to drop. But again, you notice the temperatures are dropping, but it's still hot. Even 96 is still pretty hot on Sunday before we see temperatures probably start to climb a little bit again going into early next week.
Let nothing stand between you and the tree stand with this great offer on the fast, durable Kubota Sidekick. Featuring a gas-powered engine that delivers a top speed of 40 miles per hour, outstanding acceleration and handling with cargo, and a 2-year, 1,000-hour warranty. Get the Sidekick now for 0 down, 0% APR for 36 months or save $1,000.
Tractors, trailers, rentals.
You do it all, we do it local.